We actually did have this car washed like a couple days ago, but being Minnesota, it has snowed and it has melted, and so the car is filthy again.
Welcome back to a conversation with my friends G.J. and Lysa. We talked to them a couple years ago about their BMW i3 and how much they loved that little car, but they were also excited for getting the Volkswagen ID.4. Voila, it's here. You've had it for a little while. So what was the process like, and how's it been working for you?
So we waited about a year to get it. We put in the order. It was one of the ones that came over from Germany. So I know that they're making them here in the U.S. now. So it took us about a year to get it. Super excited. We got it last January. So we got it in time for the Minnesota winter, which was great. I was very excited for it because it really, when I test drove it, felt like it drove a lot like a gas-powered car. So that flip over from me to driving it was great. It was super easy. And so I've been really happy having that car and kind of the little bit larger size, the all-wheel drive. That's been really nice.
And remind us what you came from.
I had a BMW X1, so another small SUV. And so the ID.4 is actually a little bit bigger, probably, than the X1, and a little more comfortable, which has been great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good trade up then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's been so nice driving past gas stations in the last year.
You're coming up on a year of ownership. Having done the test drive, you had certain expectations. Mm-hmm. Has it met your expectations?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sometimes I think with that first model year, you get a little, I mean, it's not a first edition, but you still first model year. There's some quirky things that they're still trying to figure out. But yeah, it drives great in the winter, drives great in the snow. We were down to one all-wheel drive vehicle, and so it was our all-wheel drive car, and it handled everything really well. So that was great.
The ID.4 does come with two-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. Which ones did you get?
So we have the all-wheel drive version, and so that actually has two motors. So it has one that runs, I believe, like the rear wheel drive and then the front wheel or something like that. So it actually has two motors powering it when you get the all-wheel drive version. So it does have a little bit more power to the wheels.
So we test drove the rear wheel, and I think that has around 200 horsepower, if I remember right. I think it was great for you. For me, it wasn't as great, like acceleration onto the highway and stuff. But the all-wheel drive, they added another, I don't know, I think it's 295 horsepower now, and it works just great if you're trying to get onto the highway or trying to pass vehicles. Coming from the i3, like you mentioned, though, it's not driving the same. You know, it's truly more, it's in my mind, it's more of, I don't know, a family car or a crossover, where the i3 is just a little more sporty and fun to drive.
Sure. A little more nimble feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, much more nimble feeling, exactly.
So you guys have two almost adult children.
Adult children.
Adult children now.
As of last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adult children.
Yeah, I know, crazy.
And so when you're traveling in the ID.4, you've got front seats full, back seats full. How's the space for a full family, and what kind of trips have you taken it on?
Well, I don't think we've done anything with all four of us on a longer road trip, but the two of us did take it up north in about a 5 or 6 hour trip, and that went well. And there was no charger where we were, so we trickle charged, and it worked out really well. The few times that we've had the four of us in the car, you know, you do notice some difference. It's a little bit heavier, but it seems to be handling it just fine.
Well, and that's one of the things we liked about the ID.4 is the back seat seems to have a lot more room than some of the competition, both in terms of legroom and height. Now, neither of us tend to sit back there, but we do have our furry kids that sit back there. And in fact, I think Lysa invested in a seat cover. Oh, yeah. So in fact, our real kids sometimes don't like it because the cover is back there for the dogs. Oh. And they're trying to find the seat belt, and trying to work around that. Yeah. But the road trip Lysa referred to, we went about, well, for those who are in Minnesota, we went about 30 or 40 minutes past Virginia, Minnesota. Okay. And there was, I don't think it was a fast charger. I think it was a level 2 in Virginia that we could use. And then, like she said, we trickle charged kind of once we got past that area the whole time we were there. But what was nice was on the way back, we stopped in Virginia, level 2 charged for about 30 minutes or so to get all the way to full. And we were able to get back to our house. Oh. 220 miles, I think it was. And we were able to get all the way back here, including traffic and everything else without needing to make another stop.
Nice. And then as far as like storage space, you're packing up for the road trip and, putting bags in and things. How are you feeling about trunk space and all that?
Well, I love the trunk space in it. I actually think it's really great as far as that capacity. Like groceries, all of that. It feels like we had a minivan before. And since the minivan, it's definitely has the most like storage capacity for us to travel. Plenty of room for suitcases, making those trips to the airport to drop the kids off or something like that can definitely fit 4 pieces of luggage back there. So, in that sense, it's great. You can drop those back seats and you can really fit kind of a lot in the back of the car.
And we've rarely had to drop those back seats because at least how we use it, the trunk space has been enough for the most part. And then we do have, with the all-wheel drive came the tow hitch. So we've attached like a bike rack to that and have used that as well. And it works just great.
For charging, you guys have the home charger installed. You had that for the i3. Mm-hmm. And so still using that one? And are you charging on the road a lot or mostly home?
So mostly home. And because, we currently have 2 EVs, what we do is we tend to put the i3 on the trickle charge just because that's a more around our hometown sort of car. And we're usually maybe putting 20 miles a day on it tops. So we usually throw that on the trickle charge and then throw the ID.4 when needed. It's maybe every 3 or 4 days if we're, if we're commuting. And then throw that on the level 2, and there's days that neither of them need it.
Yeah.
That's how we're set up. We were thinking of getting a second level 2 through our electric company, but we just thought, let's live with it for a while, and it kind of just is working out for us pretty well this way.
Great. So day-to-day, no need to charge outside of home or anything?
Mm-mm. I don't even think that because, especially in the summer, it really does get additional capacity, even over what it's rated, that we really haven't had much of a need. We're back, as far as post-COVID in the office, we're supposed to be back in 3 days a week. Really, one charge gets us that commute into Minneapolis from here for 3 days. And so we've really not had much of a need to like stop and charge or charge in the parking garage or anything like that.
The other part is Electrify America. Here where we are, there's, the closest one is a good 30 minutes away from us probably. So while we do get the 3 years of free charging, we tend to use it. We have gone into Wisconsin a few times, used it that way. And it's, it's brilliant when you can pull up and not have to pay, for charging. So that's worked for us. But I'd say really probably 3 to 5 hour trips away from our house is the longest we've gone. Though I will say last summer we thought there was a chance we were thinking of taking it down to Kentucky. So, I pulled out the app to see where I would need to, where we would need to charge. And good news was Electrify America was all along the route that we probably would have taken anyway. I guess we didn't have too much anxiety around that. We had more anxiety around we didn't know if we were going to have to go, and there was like a timing issue that would have happened with no matter what car we had.
Sure.
Yeah.
I really love the way the car drives. It does have both what they call like a D and a B mode. The B is the regenerative braking mode, which we both have kind of done like as default, which is great in the winter and things like that. It really does feel and drive very easy if you're coming from a gas-powered vehicle. Driving the all-wheel drive ID.4 is just a very, very easy conversion. It feels like a crossover SUV, one of those mid to small size. So that makes it great. There's a couple quirks with it, and some of them they've worked out in 2023 vehicle. And one I just read about this morning that's a quirk about it that I don't like is it has a tendency, if you're like stopped and maybe you're like getting a ticket at like a parking garage, it will roll back. It'll like do like a rollback. And I saw in the 2023, they've put in an automatic brake so that it doesn't do that anymore. And the concern is that, if somebody's up behind you too close and it does this little rollback, you could potentially roll into their vehicle. So that's like a weird, quirky thing that I don't like about this edition, but I'm glad to see that they fixed it for future cars.
Yeah, and I'd say, I think coming from the i3, I do not echo her sentiments about the driving. I find the driving fine, probably like what most crossover SUVs, it's probably peppier is my guess than a typical crossover, but I like the i3 and how that zooms around. If I had to pick between that and maybe even the X1 that we had before, the X1 was too small for me. The ID.4 I fit in it very well. Pretty big guy, and I fit in it really well actually. So the ride is great. I forgot about that rollback, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is the other weird safety issue to me. And I know everyone else talks about this, but they just have the 2 buttons for all 4 windows. And so it automatically defaults to the front windows, which is fine. But like when we're pulling up to a parking garage, and this happens every other day, we're pulling into our parking garage, I'm watching for pedestrians. I'm watching for the garage. I'm watching to not hit the sides. I'm putting the fingers down to roll the window down to take a ticket or to do whatever. And every other day I hit the rear button. And so now the rear starts, because it's just right there. And then of course, when you're looking at it, you're trying to hit the rear button, you keep hitting it and it's not working. I do find that to be a potential safety issue, especially for our use case in that exact situation, that I wish they had just put the 4, 4 buttons. And then the software is probably the other thing. When it works, it's fine. I think we use CarPlay more than anything else, so it's fine. I would say maybe once every probably 3 weeks, the screen just doesn't turn on. The fix for that is to hold down the button for like 10 seconds and then it'll reboot itself. So like once you know that, that's fine. But again, that could also potentially be a safety, especially if you're reliant on the camera to back up, because the screen just doesn't turn on.
Does the car run normally when the screen is off? Okay.
Yeah, so it's more of a software, and we actually had it in for its 1 year like checkup, I guess.
So they told me there's 2 updates that are finally coming for the ID.4s. This is our local dealer that told us this. They said one is a smaller update that they believe is going to be over the air, that's going to deal with some of the infotainment issues that are happening across the board. But then there's a second update coming, and it's going to take it could take anywhere from 9 to 18 hours. So you're going to have to actually bring the ID.4 in, but that's supposed to cure a lot of the issues that people are having with the technology piece. And that was they said that they were told by Volkswagen fourth quarter. It's December. So I'm not sure how much deeper in fourth quarter we get, but maybe in Germany, fourth quarter is different. I don't know. So we're waiting to hear about that one. And that one's going to be one where like we bring it into VW, they give us a rental, and they take the car for a day or 2.
Of course, I think some of these updates, at least when we got the car in January, the rumors were they were coming out this March, 9 months ago. So I think timing is TBD at this point. Is it like enough for folks to not get the ID.4 though? No, it's just one of those, maybe it's a nuisance every once in a while, but I would say, I'm very hopeful that they'll just fix it and it'll be, back to somewhat normal, or not even back to normal.
It'll get to normal.
It'll get to normal. Yeah. But it's, again, looking at your car, it's not going to compete with Tesla and software, I don't think.
And that's a matter of, are you the kind of person who uses that, is digging into menus every day and doing all that, a lot of route planning and stuff, or do you just, drive it to work and back and you know where you're going?
Yeah, and for us, the Apple CarPlay is probably the big thing for us, right? So I think as long as the Apple CarPlay is there, we kind of, that's our technology needs for the most part.
So speaking of software updates, have you had updates throughout the year since you got it, or you're still waiting for those?
So actually, no, we haven't gotten any updates yet. So when this first one finally comes, or when this big one finally comes, it's going to be the first update for the vehicle.
And some of the ID.4 forums are, folks are talking about this, that it's kind of weird that they haven't even done at least one over-the-air update. Or if they have, we didn't notice if they did it. So we have a couple of like warning lights on ours. One warning light pops up pretty much every time we turn on the car. And again, it's a software issue. It's not an actual warning light. And I hate to say it, but you just kind of get used to it that, that warning light's going to pop on. The other thing that you were asking what we like about the car, and I think I jumped into the windshield, the windows. But one thing I like about the car is you put your foot on the brake and it's on. And I like that quite a bit. And in fact, now after a year later, I'll hop into another car or even the i3 and I'll put my foot on the brake and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I still have to push a button, or I have to, you still have to do one other thing. And it seems like a small thing, but from a convenience standpoint, that's pretty huge. And then, then when you put it into park and then that's it, then you just get out of the car when you're done. I do like that.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it had the on-off button or not.
Yeah, it does have one, but you don't need to use it. The other thing that's really nice about this, and this is becoming more common with cars these days, but on the app you can start the car. So if we're parking and we're downtown Minneapolis and it's in a parking garage, it's cold, I can go on the app, have the car start warming up. Or quite frankly, because it's an EV, as you know, you can start doing it in your garage. So in Minnesota, it's really kind of nice, and the car kind of learns your behavior, and so it knows your behavior, and so it looks at the temperature. And so as soon as we started having warmer days in the spring last year, it stopped heating the seats. So you weren't walking in and going, oh God, I'm burning up already. So it does like turn on the seats, turn on the steering wheel, and start warming it up for you. Or you can set it, as you're making your walk from your office to turn on the car and have it warm when you get in, which I think is great.
We just encountered for the first time this winter where we went somewhere where it was like half snowing, half raining, and by the time we got back, there was ice on the car. And so Lysa reminded me that we have the heated windshield. So we put that button on, and what was it? Like 30 seconds, 45 seconds later, we turn on the windshield wipers, and so that was pretty nice. Yeah. Pretty nice feature. Yeah.
Yeah, some of that heating stuff is so clutch in Minnesota. Let's go outside and actually check out the ID.4.
Sounds good.
Great. All right. Good. Oh, this will be interesting having somebody in the back seat.
So we're getting that good background or backup sound.
Yes, it's like a spaceship or something.
Yeah. Sound. We always say it's like Epcot if you do that ride test track.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that we mentioned, Brian, is there's the D mode and the B mode. Mm-hmm. And B mode has the regenerative braking. You have to double click to get to B mode. So the default is drive mode, which will just coast like a normal car. A traditional car.
And so it's right here. And so basically when you put it into, I'm in D mode, it'll feel a lot like a typical car. And then if I do another one, then I'll be in B mode and get the regenerative braking.
So G.J., you were saying this is the 2021?
Yeah, this is the 2021 all-wheel drive, which came out, in later 2021. So we took delivery in 2022 in January. And I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks later, the final 2021s took delivery and they switched over to the 2022 year.
And so this is the CarPlay interface?
Yeah, this is the CarPlay, which is wireless, which works out really nicely. So we use that for maps or podcasts or music.
Yeah, so if you're used to Google Maps, for example, you can use Google Maps as opposed to the navigation system that comes with the Volkswagen. Yeah. We tend to listen to a lot of podcasts though, so we put it in podcast mode and let it go.
Like Only the Good Parts podcast?
That's right. That's right. So here we can use this just like any other navigation system. We're in Google Maps.
And you can do, actually, is it this button right here? Oh no, that's not it. Where you can do it kind of like a screen within a screen.
Oh yeah, that's this one right here.
Which I like because then you kind of have all of it.
Multiple apps you can do.
So that's just part of CarPlay, but that works really nicely.
The other thing about this screen is it's tilted toward Lysa, the driver, right now. So it's very biased toward the driver. And if you're on a road trip and there's a couple of you in the front seat, sometimes it is a little weird for the passenger, but it makes a lot of sense when there's just one person driving. It's not on a swivel or anything, it's stationary.
And this is, I believe, is the slightly larger. This is the Pro S version of the ID.4 all-wheel drive, and there's a Pro S and a Pro version, and I believe that has a slightly smaller screen on it.
The other thing I just remembered is we actually did switch out the rear view mirror to one with the home link. At least in 2021, it didn't come with home link, so we switched that out, kind of aftermarket. I'm not sure where they are nowadays. I think it's either coming with it or you can order with it now. But that's what includes the compass and garage door opener and all that stuff.
But it's just a super comfortable ride. I really enjoy driving it. It feels really like a big enough car in the land of Minnesota SUVs that you feel safe and comfortable in it, but it just drives really nice and familiar. So for somebody like me who's a smaller, in stature, I find it to be very comfortable, very easy to maneuver through either city streets, parking lots where there can be a lot of other drivers. It's not enormous. It's super easy to park and see where parallel park and all that stuff, which I don't prefer to do. It really gives you comfort, and it helps you, it has a couple different monitoring things that help you kind of see where you are. So it does make it really an easy car, I would say, to transition if you've never had an EV and you're looking for something that's an EV, but yet you'll still feel almost immediately comfortable in. This is really nice. If you put it in the regular D mode, you'd hardly even know you were in an EV. So for somebody like me, I think for people with young families, this would just be super comfortable, super easy transition to the EV world. It's not flashy, so if you don't want a flashy car, but you kind of want all the benefits of an EV, I think this is a really great car for people. The first time we drove it, I immediately felt super comfortable in it. I had driven Volkswagens or Audis a lot of times in my life, and everything seemed very familiar and very comfortable. We owned a Tiguan at the time. So I do think that there's a real level of comfortability for me with this vehicle that I found. And the biggest thing is you get kind of used to some of the features with the car, and you have to kind of get used to it when you rent a car, you go in a different vehicle. One of them being that you only put your foot on the brake to start the car, which is great. And so that you get really used to that. And so you get another car and you're like, why isn't it starting? So that's a really nice feature.
Well, I just noticed as we were following, the car in the other lane was also a Volkswagen SUV. I didn't see what kind it was, but it's almost this exact same size. Once you have one of these and realize how good it is, you see something like that and it's like, well, why couldn't that be this?
Yeah, it's very similar size to the Tiguan, I think, which is
the previous.
Yeah.
Something else too, I think, Lisa, what you mentioned when we first test drove it, I'm not sure if the GoPro's picking it up or not, but the way Volkswagen designed this up front is pretty clever. It's like the hood is going down and in, which makes, I think, the vehicle appear smaller for someone, Lisa's size, who was looking for something a little smaller, because we had just come from driving the Mach-E, which I really liked, but the Mach-E almost has the opposite, where the hood appears much bigger and much larger. So I think just even some of the visual optics that Volkswagen's employing in the design is helpful too.
And it feels pretty spacious in here. So before this car, I drove a BMW X1, which is their smallest SUV. And I remember GJ and I would be almost shoulder to shoulder in it. And in this one, it feels like we've got much more room in this car. And yet somebody can sit in the back seat and not have their, they can not have their knees hopefully in their chest.
Yeah, how's the back seat, Brian?
Yeah, I'm in the middle and it's comfortable. I don't know that I'd want to sit in the middle for a road trip, but not having a transmission tunnel or anything like that, you have plenty of foot-room, and even where GJ's seat is, there's another 4 to 6 inches between my knee and the back of his seat, and I assume you're sitting comfortably.
Yeah, I have a pretty far back.
And as I'm sitting back here, I'm also noticing you have this beautiful glass roof, which is fantastic to look through. But I also remembered that it has the shade that goes.
It does.
Would you like to see?
Yeah, if you want to demonstrate that.
It's coming from behind you.
It's coming from inside the house.
From inside the car.
And actually, it's funny, I've ridden in the back seat a couple of times. And one of the things that's great about that panoramic roof is that it does help it feel more roomy back there.
Yeah, this is a little tighter feeling. I mean, there's still plenty of headroom. I've still got 2 inches between my head and the cover, but...
Now, this is maybe the third time we've had the roof closed since we've had it. And I know this isn't like an Arizona summer or anything that we would have here, but for us, the tinting on top works just great in the summer. So we've kept it open most of the time.
Yeah, we really haven't closed it at all. It doesn't seem to really lose heat or anything like that with it. It's super comfortable. Doesn't seem to produce extra light that it's difficult to see or read gauges with it open.
And you're right, Brian. It does. I mean, even up front here, it does feel more roomy or airy with it open.
We actually did have this car washed like a couple days ago, but being Minnesota, It has snowed and it has melted, and so the car is filthy again.
Well, it was clean this morning. We took one ride to the school to pick up our son, and it's all splashed back.
Yep.
You know, something else that we were talking about earlier is, I think for us it came down between the Mach-E and the ID.4. Ultimately, would you say that's true, Lisa?
Oh yeah, totally.
And we did consider the Y, so we considered the Model Y, the Mach-E, and the ID.4, and I think we liked all of them for different reasons. Ultimately, we had a chance to drive the Mach-E and the ID.4 back to back, and you know, Lisa, I know you had maybe the biggest reaction.
Yeah, the minute I drove it, I was sold. I absolutely was like, yep, this is the car for me. I love it. It's super comfortable. I feel very familiar. Things about it. Everything is where I feel like naturally it's suitable for me. It appeals to me as like a family car. You know, we throw our dogs in the back seat, we throw our kids in the back seat. You can bring people and have them be comfortable. You can go to the, you know, Home Depot or something and get stuff, and you can drop the back seat. So it really like kind of fulfilled everything I want in like a crossover SUV, but yet it has that EV thing, but it still feels very much like what I'm familiar with. So I was sold 100% the minute we drove it.
And I think I was sold on the Mach-E almost right away after driving it. And yeah, it had some quirks that maybe you'd have to get used to, but I was pretty sold on that. Ultimately, this car was going to be, at the time, more of Lisa's primary ride. So we ultimately chose to go with this one. And you know, now let's see. Maybe we'll wait for the ID Buzz to come out or see what.
We'll see what comes next.
But at the time, I was leaning toward the Mach-E. She was leaning very heavily toward this one. From what I understand, that might be a common comparison for some people.
I do see a lot of ways that this would appeal to people in a similar position as me. What's also nice though is it does have the power seats, the memory seats. So GJ and I are 1.5 feet different in height or something like. I don't need to know that.
Just a foot, yeah.
Foot. Okay, not 1.5 feet, but a foot different.
6 feet different.
But we're different enough in height that memory seat thing is very important. And then, of course, when I let him drive, if he's making me nervous, I can put on the seat massager and try and mellow out.
That's right. About the seat massager, how often do you guys use those?
I use it all the time when he's driving, which is every time we commute, because I let him drive in the traffic to the office. So. And
until about last week, I forgot it was even there, so I don't use it as often. On road trips, though, it is kind of nice to have it on for a little bit. And I noticed that the massager it must be on a timer, because it'll turn off after.
It turns off after a certain amount of time.
But it's a nice feature.
And it's very subtle. It's not like banging on your back, so it's just a very subtle thing, kind of works the lumbar to your upper back. So if you are sitting in a car for a longer trip, it's a nice little feature.
It does seem to have good pickup. I mean,
yeah,
it's not, like you said, race car, super peppy, but it's got.
I can pass like that Jeep right there.
Yeah.
That wasn't even me trying.
Right. Yeah.
I wasn't even trying. Yes. So, I mean, as far as, if you're going to put it in a performance against a typical SUV that a mom in Lakeville is going to be driving like me, I'll beat them off the start line, definitely 9 out of 10 times. Because, I mean, if they're driving a gas car, they got that lag.
And is that important to you?
Absolutely, 100% important to me. Because I'm very competitive that way. You can zip around anybody you need to zip around. It's very attentive. If you're coming from probably a Tesla or the i3, yeah, is it as quick? No, absolutely not. If you're coming from any kind of gas-powered vehicle, you're just gonna be quicker off the start just because you're in an electric vehicle. And it's very comfortable. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but like at least I feel, maybe I'm making you car sick, but there's barf bags in the back. But I do feel like, I can accelerate pretty quickly. It's pretty smooth.
Like maybe a little more gradual than like the i3 for sure.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like, you sometimes can get a little like, oh, I didn't realize I was going 80. Because it is pretty smooth.
It's definitely comfortable. Even, I'm in the worst seat in the car, and it's plenty comfortable.
You might be the first person to ride in the middle. I don't know that we've had anybody. Maybe the dog.
I mentioned how we also drove, a couple of different Tesla Ys. And at least for me, I found them to almost be a little too firm.
Yep.
So this is I think this is a pretty good compromise where the comfortability is there, but then the trade-off is it might not be as peppy either.
Yeah, Tesla's actually, I think with 2023 models, they might be rolling off now. They did a new suspension.
Oh, that's good.
It is a little softer. That is supposed to not give up any sport feature, but is maybe a little more pliable in day-to-day driving.
Well, and I do wonder if it's one of those things that when you're test driving these back to back to back, and everything's like fresh in your memory.
Yeah.
That's likely when you're going to notice it the most. But then after because even once we got this car, you know, it just took my body a few trips to adapt to just how it drives differently than in other cars we've had.
So I do think like this car is a great car for somebody who's looking to go into the EV market that maybe is a little scared of a Tesla or a Mach-E or something that's just a completely different feel. Some people find that super exciting, but if you're like me and you're maybe not the most like embracing of change, this is a really good way, I think, to make that change and not really give up anything you would have in a gas vehicle except for the gas. It drives very much like a car, which probably was something that did attract to me, even though you get the advantages of being an SUV, being up a little bit higher, the capacity. I will say that one of the things that it does drive like a car in that sense that you don't feel like tippiness or any of that. It takes the turns really well grounded. And of course it being heavier than a typical car helps in that matter.
Yeah, so foot on the brake, felt it kind of depress a little bit, and like, okay,
Yeah.
we're ready to roll.
And that's it.
And
Now the emergency one would be back over here. For some reason that ever didn't work, but I don't think we've ever used it.
Yeah,
No, if the car does have that stopping thing where it'll stop if it senses something, which has been nice, so I didn't hit trash cans one time.
So now, so now you're on drive, so this is going to coast.
Okay.
So if you take the foot off the pedal, it'll coast like a gas
Yeah,
car.
like a gas car.
If you twist it again, now it'll go into B mode, which
And we get regen.
there's the regen. The regen's not as strong as maybe like the i3, but it still helps slow the car down.
Yeah, plenty of, like, that's about half pedal and more than you would usually need to make a turn like that.
Yeah.
Really comfortable steering, like I could tell from the back seat, very planted.
Yeah, the balance seems pretty nice in the car. One thing we didn't talk about earlier is how it handles the snow. I think really well. I mean, I guess it's an all-wheel drive car. It handles it as I guess expect it to handle it.
You want to put on mode and just show him the mode screen. So on this mode screen, you can select, and right now it's selected for comfort, but when we've had icier roads, I've selected for traction, and I've noticed a little bit of an increased grab.
Okay.
It just kind of helps just a little bit.
Does it have all seasons on it?
It does.
Yeah.
And we did talk earlier about the turning radius. So I'm going to get in this roundabout on the inside and just kind of got a guy in front of us with a trailer, but yeah, we're on the inside track of the roundabout. Big Ben kids, Parliament.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But there was plenty of turn left. We could have gone much tighter.
Yes.
Than what we were doing there, and yeah, very smooth, comfortable, quiet.
It is
Yeah,
quiet.
very
That is
quiet.
true. It's been a while, so I'm trying to remember. I think as far as comfort, I remember the Mach-E being fairly about the same, maybe. Did you say, Lisa? I'm trying to remember that day.
Yeah,
I think we found the comfort about the same.
The Mach-E felt, even though if you put these two side by side, I'm not sure that the Mach-E's actually that much bigger. It felt a lot bigger to me to drive.
Okay. Where I feel like this, when you open it up, you get everything you're expecting to get. And the Model Y is kind of like that too, where the top does go in a little bit, but it's not as severe as the Mach-E, which is plenty capable if that's what you need. But
Yeah, and that was one of the trade-offs we noticed between the Mach-E and this. It's the storage, for sure. I think the price point too. I think the Mach-E, the comparable Mach-E, was probably $7,000 to $8,000 more at the time than this. Might be preference, might be how they're marketing it. I'm not sure, but yeah, I really
could see this.
I really like the Mach-E.
I could see this car being marketed more towards a woman consumer because of the way it feels. It's not as flashy.
And you like that?
I like it. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm the demographic that this car is marketed for. Suburban mom. You know, I mean, truly.
I do think I prefer this hood to the Mach-E because, yeah, that does, like, you get that big rounded front, and it's a cool design element on the outside, but on the inside you're kind of doing a little of this, where this is, I can see the front, but it's not.
And see how they almost do the opposite?
Yeah.
It's all, they kind of concave it in, and so visually, yeah, it helps you see more of the road, I think.
Which I liked about this over the Mach-E for sure.
This is a brand new road, so of course it's smooth, but it's you know, as you feel bumps and things, very smooth. How is the cruise control, adaptive cruise, any of that? How does that work for you?
Really well.
Yep, yeah, so we've been able to use it a few times on a few road trips. Yeah, it works great. It's yeah, it's an adaptive cruise control. Okay. So like what a lot of gas-powered vehicles have, it's something similar to that. So you know, if
with
you
lane keeping too.
Yep.
Yes, with lane assist keeping. Yeah, and so you know, you can set the amount of space you want between you and the next car or next vehicle, and it works really well.
It makes those road trips really easy.
It does seem like there's a little lane assist. As I was kind of heading to the white line, it was like,
oh, yeah,
hey, we're moving over now.
Try it. It won't let you. Typically, it won't even let you. Yeah, knocks you back over.
Right back. That's good.
Well, it's good.
Smooth.
It's good. There's a few spots on the commute back from downtown Minneapolis that it thinks it's the end of the lane, and it's not. It's like the middle of the lane.
Because they like removed the lanes.
Yeah, because when
so
they
it
moved
can still
it,
kind of read the old lines.
Yeah.
And so every time it tells GJ to get in the lane, it'll even like flash up on the.
It tells me to stay in the center, and I'm like, I am in the center of the lane.
Does it beep at you or anything?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it also has, you might see it, it has warning lights, like if there's a car passing, blind spot warning lights on the mirrors.
Okay.
That just flash if a car is next to you, just to let you know that they're there.
Yeah, really pleasant through that turn. I mean, that's the word that keeps coming to mind is like, it's just, you know, this is a friendly place to be, and just, yeah, enjoy yourself. The seat heaters are on, I can feel.
Yeah.
It really feels like a car that could appeal to a lot of different types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, I think that if you're wanting to tiptoe into the EV market, I feel like this is just I think I've said that a few times, but I do really feel like this is where this is marketed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I might have to get her CarPlay set up, but I feel like I could put my mom in this, and she would be, you know, or my sister, and they'd be like, yeah, I can't tell the difference from, you know, what I'm driving now.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think that's all by design. I'm assuming what Volkswagen's trying to do here is say, hey, we think this is where the future's heading, and here's an easy path into that. You know, now,
yeah.
I think it's still up to folks to figure out, you know, the at-home charging, or if they're in, you know, an apartment complex or somewhere, you know, all of that is still something that needs to be sorted out.
Right.
We're fortunate that we already had a charger set up from our other vehicle, so this was a very easy transition for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Once you do that once, you're set. And then your next vehicle, you don't have to sort that part out. It's just get the best vehicle the right one for you. And
when we had a friend over a few months ago who's a realtor, and they saw the charger and they said, we're starting to list these as features of homes now. Mm-hmm. Homes that have EV chargers, because it's starting to become that, you know, ubiquitous. So that's good. And then
very comfortable. Oh, I did feel a little of that rollback.
And then press park. And lift your foot off the brake, and the car's off. Well, kind of.
When you get out.
It's technically off when you get off the seat.
Yeah. So it's like if you're playing audio,
if you're playing music or something,
it'll stop once you get out.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It stops once you're off the seat. Yeah, one of the features I like is the walk-up feature. So if you have the key on you and you walk up to the car, recognizes that you're walking up and it unlocks the car. So it's pretty sweet.
And so the key is a fob. Can you use your phone as a key as well? Or just the fob?
I don't know.
Yet.
Not at this time.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I couldn't remember where they were on that. But.
Yeah, I can't remember either. A year ago it was known. We haven't looked into it since.
Okay. But if you have the fob, you just use it like any other car.
Exactly.
Yeah. After we got back to the house, we spent a little more time looking at different odds and ends like ambient lighting and other cool features. So this will get a little random, but it's stuff I think you'll like to see.
There's a running joke in one of the ID.4 forums that the way you greet another ID.4 driver is by accidentally rolling down your back window.
And this is wireless charging pad here.
There's just this really kind of bizarre little card holder there. And we were like, what the heck do you use this for? Well, guess what? Our parking passes fit perfectly.
Yeah.
It works great. So
yeah. We had no clue, and that's what we're using it for. I'm not sure if
that's the intent.
That's the intent, but that's what we're doing.
It's pretty nice.
I do like that there's minimal buttons, but there are a handful of buttons here for this interface. That's how you open the...
Yeah, you swipe
the roof.
Swipe the direction you want it to go. And you can even stop it halfway through if you want.
Okay.
Or anywhere through, you could stop it at any point. When you have like groceries or something, they have Velcro on and you can do this so your groceries don't move around.
Oh, great. For milk jugs and things.
Milk jugs, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of cool.
I don't know, I love them.
That's cool. And then
store pretty nicely. And then there is
a little space under there.
A little space there. So that's actually the charger that came with it. And then there's even more space down below.
Oh, wow.
And that's where we have like a safety kit down there. So there's even that.
Yeah, that's surprisingly deep.
Yeah. We actually kind of bought this whole kit that came with this and these and actually this extra little cover here. It was like part of a kit that came with it.
That's a pass-through? Like a ski pass-through?
That's right. That's exactly what that is. I'd see the green light.
Yep.
And then see all the way to the far right. That's how much it's adding. Yep. So the solid state is how charged it is. And then here on the screen gives you the same data. So it's 86% charged. And of course, we're in the winter. We're at 42 degrees Fahrenheit. And so right now our range would be 182 miles.
Nice. And
then Volkswagen recommends 80% charge. We tend to charge all the way though, because we usually only charge maybe twice a week.
Okay.
And then we're able to use it the whole time. And it's charging at 21 miles an hour as far as adding miles back in. And again, this is something that I think is interesting because then people don't have to do the math, right? Like Volkswagen does the math as far as, oh, well, if I want to get to 200 miles, it's going to take, about an hour at this rate. This is level 2 charging right now.
Right.
But yeah, so this bar up here is kind of neat.
Yeah, it's nice and subtle. And, if you were going to stay in here, it wouldn't be too distracting.
Yeah.
If you're like fast charging, it wouldn't be a big deal. But
so you can kind of, when you come back to the car, like if you go somewhere, grab a bite to eat, come back, you can kind of see the progress of where it's at. So that's also kind of cool. Yeah.
I like that purple. Good choice.
And so here there's different presets. So if you want to go red with it, you can go red. Well, I mean, obviously, I guess you can see the colors. We had it on yellow like during the summer, which was kind of yellow-orange. Mm-hmm. But then Lysa has this purple going that I really like right now.
Yeah, that's sharp.
So it kind of gives you a lot of different hue options.
Yeah. Well, I like you have options for, like one person can have their color and another person.
Yeah.
Or is it two-tone throughout the car?
That's a good question. Now that you're saying that, I'm not sure. Let's see. Here, let's turn something, green? Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah.
There.
So the sides.
The sides and the back changed.
Ah, cool.
So that stayed purple. And then it looks like if you go here, let's see what happens there. That is just the side. So this stayed purple with this. I guess.
Mix and match. It's fun though. That's a lot of cool options. Well, GJ and Lysa, thank you very much for sharing your ID.4 with me, and I hope everyone learned a little bit, and I'm really glad that you're enjoying it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks. Have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next one.